Welcome into No Pun Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo, and wow, what an awful week 2 it was. I mean,
You're telling me.
it's not for the fact that, I lost a couple close matchups. It's for the fact that I'm looking at our quick news and quick thoughts, and there is
Nothing quick about it.
Yeah, there's 15 or so injuries, and we probably forgot a few. But joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss. And for the first time on the show, someone with the Fantasy Footballers, Rob, also known as FF Gator. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Happy to be here. I think this is actually the first time anybody on Twitter or in general will see me like in real life. So this is kind of a big moment. Yeah.
Let's go. We have Rob's first public appearance.
Yeah, I wish I was better looking, but I'll do what I can.
No, you're good. The beard's really working.
I grew it out just for this.
Quarantine's done you good.
You got a voice for radio, man. I'm digging this. This is going to be a good one. I like this.
You want to know why? Because everyone who's a Boston sports fan is, has a beautiful voice for radio.
Made to talk sports on the radio.
Yeah, just made to talk sports.
Joe, move on from that.
Poking here. All right. So how we're going to do it again, if you're new to the show, quick news and thoughts, which is not quick this week, but I'll run through it as fast as I can. Our 3 up, 3 down, upside, downside, Ryan's stream of the week at quarterback, tight end, and defense, and of course, everyone's favorite, my kicker of the week. I know you can't wait for that towards the end of the show. My kicker of the week. Rob, are you a fan of kickers, or is that a no-go for you?
What are those?
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, so we have a dynasty league, and they're like non-existent.
Oh, you mean those league ruiners? Yeah. No, I'm not really a fan, to be honest with you. But
why does no one?
I think they're fun, but I think they're just something that was introduced to like make it more lucky. So like if you're good at fantasy football, you hate kickers. That's how I feel about it.
Damn, I can't wait till Linda is on next week, and her and I can go off on kickers.
Hey, I still like kickers. I am not get rid of kickers, guys.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Sorry, I shouldn't have spoke for Ryan. My bad.
All right, so here we go. The quick news and thoughts. If you live under a rock, there were a lot of injuries last week. Running through some of them, Jimmy Garoppolo, ankle injury. Kyle Shanahan, I believe, came out today saying that he would be shocked if Garoppolo starts this week.
Nick Mullins season, baby.
Nick Mullins, baby. Tyrod Taylor got stabbed by his medical staff, so he is week to week. Apparently they punctured his lung trying to give him something, which
let's be awful.
Look, terrible for Tyrod Taylor, right? Justin Herbert should be the starter. I don't think that's a question in anybody's mind. He looked pretty good in his debut. Drew Lock also down, shoulder injury out indefinitely. Jeff Driscoll is now the starter for the Broncos, and the backup, the one and only
Blake Bortles, baby!
The best quarterback ever to come out of UCF, Blake Bortles. Saquon Barkley, torn ACL, out for the season. Christian McCaffrey, high ankle sprain, expected to miss about a month and a half.
Landed on IR today, too.
Yes, yeah. Raheem Mostert, knee injury week to week. Tevin Coleman, knee injury, likely out multiple weeks. Jerick McKinnon. Running back.
Jeff Wilson Jr.,
another guy. Cam Akers, rib injury, considered day-to-day. Chris Godwin, concussion, cleared to play for week 3, though. Cortland Sutton, IR, done for the season, knee injury. Brashad Perryman, ankle injury week to week. Paris Campbell, knee injury, out indefinitely. Devontae Adams, hamstring, should be good to go week 3.
And now they're saying that he's uncertain for week 3.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love this. I have Devontae Adams and Saquon Barkley on the same team. Just love it. First round, second round pick down the drain. Will Fuller, hurt. Shocker. He should be good for week 3, though. Dawson Knox in concussion protocol for the Bills. Jalen Reagor, torn UCL, the one that not a lot of people normally see. He is placed on IR, but he should be back sometime this season. He's not done for the season, just for a few weeks. Sterling Shepard also placed on IR with a toe injury. We probably missed 1,000 other guys.
I'm going to throw one big one. They're saying Julio re-aggravated a previous hamstring injury, so soft tissue injuries are always tough. You want to keep an eye on that one, too.
Russell Gage, the beneficiary right there.
Yeah. All right. So now we head into our 3 up, 3 down. We'll start, of course, with the ups, because after that depressing news, I'd like some good news. I'll run through everyone's, and then we'll highlight everyone. We'll highlight one person from each guy here. So Rob had Deontay Johnson, Miles Sanders, and Darrell Henderson. Ryan, you had Joshua Kelly, Jonnu Smith, and Jordan Reed. Josh, you had Russ Wilson, Stephon Diggs and Mike Gesicki. Myself, I had Cam Newton, Justin Herbert, and CeeDee Lamb. So, Rob, starting with you, I mean, 3 great guys. Miles Sanders misses week 1, comes back strong in week 2. Darrell Henderson, exact same game, filling in for Cam Akers. Who do you have as your number 1 up this week?
I mean, it's kind of hard because all 3 of them were really good there. I think the usage from Sanders was nice to see because, coming back, giving him that workload, I think is a big deal. But for me, it's Deontay, just because, he had another 13 targets on top of 10, and he's actually out-targeting Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, all those guys. Like, he is the man in Pittsburgh. I don't know if it'll be that heavy the whole time, but it's really nice to see because he's a damn good player.
I believe he's second in the league in targets, actually, behind AJ Green right now.
Yeah, I think Waller's up there too, which is wild.
What do you have, like 80 on Monday night?
Yeah, what did he had like 10 receptions on Monday night or something like that.
Oh, I think he had like 13.
I don't
It
know.
was something crazy like that.
I just wish somebody would have told me about Deontay Johnson's upside before the season started.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's not like we haven't been banging those drums all year.
Yeah, top 15 wide receiver. Just throw this out there. Jake is back on YouTube. Love you, buddy.
Him.
Yeah, Jake, our resident Jets fan, he drafted Michael Thomas and A.J. Brown. So really hurting there. Ryan, Josh Kelly, Jonnu Smith, and Jordan Reed. Can we talk about Jordan Reed? Because I think that's a great feel-good story right there.
Absolutely.
I love it.
As a writer for the Ballers, I think Jordan Reed Love was required. Rule 86, if he plays, you play him. I guess it's Rule 81 now. But the new rule, I guess, add-on would be if Kittle doesn't play, you play Jordan Reed. What a great week last week. 8 targets, 2 touchdowns. Now, we knew the 49ers had wide receiver troubles. We mentioned that because Jimmy Garoppolo was my stream of the week last week, but we knew it was running backs and tight ends are where these targets were going to end up. I don't think anyone was expecting 2 touchdowns. He was the only non-running back targeted in the red zone for San Francisco last week. So Kittle's looking like he's going to be back this week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Reed, if Kittle were out, would probably be my stream of the week at tight end, but even without they still have such low depth at wide receiver and low talent at wide receiver. I think Reed is still a playable option heading into this week against the Giants and that banged up and horrible secondary.
Most definitely. And before we head into Josh, your top up, Nick over on Facebook, one of our buddies here, James Robinson in a PPR. How many points do we think he's putting up this week? Because I would like an answer to this question as well. Because I'm in a predicament where I think James Robinson is an absolutely fantastic start this week. But do you feel confident benching him over maybe another household name at the flex position? Rob, I'll start with you on this one. Your thoughts on James Robinson coming into week 3 here? He plays tomorrow night against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think this is one of those kind of weird spots where like you debate these players, like, are they for real in terms of fantasy? Like, the Robinsons, Josh Kelly, even Antonio Gibson starting to creep up a little bit. Like, I think this is the toughest time for me. Like, do I want to play those guys over like the guys that should be in my lineup by name, but have been absolute trash this year? So Robinson, I think against Miami, they're giving him the same workload that Fournette was getting before he left. And they showed that no matter how bad their running back plays, they'll give them the ball anyway. So I don't expect that to change at all with Robinson. So I would fire him up. I think he's gonna be a top 20 back this week.
All right, Josh and Ryan, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan, because I know I was gonna literally ask you what you have him projected at points wise.
Points wise, I have him at 14.5. I have him coming in as the RB 25. He's kind of touchdown dependent. Now, one thing that could go up for him this year or this week is his receiving upside. It's sounding a lot like DJ Chark is at the very least going to be limited and may end up missing the game. Now, for me, that screams it's time to start Laviska Shenault. But Robinson's going to be out there for a lot, and I think he could end up seeing some dump-off targets without DJ Chark out there. That is one of Gardner's favorite things to do is throw the ball deep to Chark. He may have to dump those passes off now if he doesn't choose to run them. So I like Robinson as a top 20 play upside. I have him, middling RB2 right now. Miami's defense isn't terrible. And I just don't know that he's going to get the 20 to 25 carries it would take for him to be a top 15 back or so. But I have him totaling out at 14.5 at the RB 25.
I mean, you want to talk about, if DJ Chark doesn't play, just looking at DFS, if you're playing in a DraftKings or a FanDuel just Thursday night game, Keelan Cole is like dirt cheap right now. And Minshew has targeted him. He has 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. And on the Dolphins side, did anyone know Isaiah Ford caught like 7 passes last week and had like
their
16
slot
points?
guy? Yeah, he's dominating out of the slot right now.
Yeah, so
I shed a tear every time Isaiah Ford does well because it should have been Albert Wilson.
I know it should have. It should have been.
Wilson would have found a way to get hurt anyway, dude. That's just what he does, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to galaxy brain that Keelan Cole call. And did you see Mike Clay tweet today that Tyler Eifert is leading the Jags in air yards?
Seriously?
Yeah,
Wow.
Isn't that bizarre? So if you want to go like showdown slate Thursday night, if Chark doesn't play and you're looking to pivot, throw Eifert in there. I could see it happening.
Big body guy. I mean, there's no one on Miami that's going to be able to cover him. I love that. Definitely.
Yeah, we're talking tournaments. Don't do it in cash.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Steely McBeam. Another question from Facebook is popping today, ladies and gentlemen. James
welcome.
Robinson, Kareem Hunt, or David Montgomery in a half-point PPR. Rob, I'll start with you. The Browns play at home against the Washington football team, and the Bears are on the road in Atlanta.
Ooh, that's kind of tough. You said Montgomery, Hunt, and Robinson, correct?
Correct, yes. Half-point PPR.
I think you have to be playing anybody against the Falcons right now, the way their defense has been playing. And Monty has been flying under the radar. He actually looks pretty good, especially compared to last season. So give me Monty out of that group, but that's a tough call.
Josh?
Yeah, I would rank them Monty, Robinson, and Hunt this week. That's kind of where I would have them. I don't love the matchup with Hunt. It just doesn't. Again, I feel like the only way that he's really going to see like equal volume with Chubb is if they're blowing out teams, and I just don't see that with Cleveland this week.
No, that's very fair. Ryan?
Literally same exact thing as Josh. The only thing I'll add is Rob brought up a really good point about Atlanta. I have Montgomery as a borderline top 10 play this week.
Atlanta's just bad, so I'll also go with David Montgomery in that instance. Atlanta, I mean, guys, did you watch the game last week?
Yep.
Oh, what a mess. We're going to talk about that in a sec. And then Jake over on YouTube. Jake's my favorite person in the world. I love Jake. How are we feeling about Kenyon Drake going forward? He says he's the only player he has left that he drafted in the first 3 rounds. Yeah, that's how bad week 2 was, Jake.
I feel like we need to pour one out for poor Jake, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Jake had Michael Thomas, A.J. Brown, Kenyon Drake. And he's a Jets fan. What a tough life. Jake
I will
is
say,
living.
I think this is an easy bounce back week for Drake
Kenyon
against
Drake.
Detroit. The Lions are allowing almost 7 yards per carry to running backs through 2 weeks.
See Aaron Jones' 50-point performance last week.
And Kenyon Drake is up there in terms of routes run from running backs. I believe he's 7th. Again, we saw what Aaron Jones did, not just on the ground, but in the air. He had over 10 fantasy points just from receiving aspect. Drake had over 20 carries last week. He's getting the ball. It's only a matter of time before all that starts to click. I look at this schedule. There's a lot of quote get right games for some of these players that we were high on kind of coming into the week. This is one of those games for one of those players.
And if you look at it, he's played in the first 2 weeks San Francisco and Washington, who are 2 of the best front sevens in the NFL. So it's going to be hard for him to run the football. You want to talk about one of the best defensive lines in Washington. It's going to be hard for Drake to run the football against those 2 teams. Name me one person on that Detroit Lions front 7 besides Trey Flowers. Jared Davis, like the 5th-year guy out of Florida or wherever he came out of college. Like they don't have anybody to stop the run. Kenyon Drake should have spoiler alert, he's my upside this week at running back. So yeah, I think Kenyon Drake, because a lot of people I feel are not feeling good about that pick right now, but you got to remember it's only been 2 weeks. He had a couple tough matchups in the first 2 weeks, so
it's not like he's been
he also
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No. Go.
I was just gonna say he also was in a walking boot right up until week 1 too. So
yeah.
Kingsbury's a galaxy brain kind of coach. He's also probably not going to be going out there hammering a running back who's just coming off a walking boot with no preseason. So it might turn out to be a blessing for Drake owners.
Yeah, and 36 carries for 146 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, with the 2 defenses he played, That's not bad. Another thing to note is Chase Edmonds has fumbled in each of the first 2 games. That's not going to get you on a coach's good side. So I think you're going to see Edmonds, I don't want to call it phased out, but you're going to see him given less opportunity, and you're going to see Drake fed in those situations.
Yeah. This is turning into a lot of viewer interaction, and our outlines going straight out the window, which I'm very happy about because I'd rather answer these questions from the listeners. Again, like if you
we have
guys,
a Saturday show for this, guys.
I know. I'm seeing a lot of start sit questions, and I love it. I want more viewer interaction as much as possible. But too, if you have any more that pop up, we do it every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern on Facebook and Periscope. So check us out there as well on Saturdays for your start sit questions. But Logan over on YouTube, is it worth going after Christian McCaffrey while owners are still panicking? Anytime is good to go after Christian McCaffrey. You probably...
Yeah, do you want to win your championship?
Yeah, so here's the thing.
And now's the time to buy because his value is down.
Yeah, and, 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be back at the earliest by week 8, at the latest by week 10, so you still have him for a few regular season games. And then, if you're sitting 2-0 right now, I would go after Christian McCaffrey. If you're 0-2, I would not go after Christian McCaffrey because then you're just having another guy that's just going to kind of ride your bench. If you feel confident in your running backs that you can play ahead of McCaffrey right now and you feel confident that they can fill in well for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I go for it. I don't see why not. Right? Anyone chime in?
Yeah, for me, it's about your depth. That's where that's where it lies. If I'm interested in going out to get CMC, I mean, with all these injuries, most everyone has been affected by at least one of them. Some of us have been affected by 3 or 4 of them. I mean, I've got some leagues where I've got 4 guys already sitting on IR, and if it weren't for COVID, we wouldn't have 4 IR spots.
Yeah.
So, we'd be in a lot of trouble here. So. I mean, if I haven't been hit with that injury bug yet and I've got some added depth, then abso-freaking-lutely I'm going after CMC because I know that when he comes back, there's a good chance that he picks up where he left off. But then the flip side of that, high ankle sprains are tricky. I mean, we saw how bad Saquon Barkley struggled trying to push through a high ankle sprain. We saw Alvin Kamara last year struggle with a high ankle sprain when he came back. It has lasting effects. So there's you kind of have to weigh a lot of that in your decision making.
Yeah, I would echo that a little bit too. I think it's entirely team dependent. It's just like Barkley last year. Like the one thing I will say is like if you took CMC, you had the longest wait of anyone for your round 2 and 3 picks. And the way that running backs went off the shelves, there's a good chance the CMC owner is really thin at running back when it comes to like the person who's going to slide in there. So I think you can get him for a decent price, but it really depends on who you have and what your situation is. So I agree, 2-0, go after it, but just be a little careful because there's a good chance they'll be 0-6, 0-7 when he comes back. And
they could just shut him down all season.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Matt Rule's a new coach. He's a smart coach, and I could see them taking it easy there. So I would be careful. Don't give up any like big name RB1s for it.
Yeah. Also, keep the questions coming. I am just going to go first come, first serve here. I see there's like 3 or 4 lined up right now in the queue. So I'm just going to go line by line as I see them come in. One is from Joe Jones, which is a beautiful name that just flows right off the tongue. Start 4 of 5 in a full point PPR. We're assuming that this is a super flex because there's 2 quarterbacks in the mix here. Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, Miles Sanders, Ezekiel Elliott, and Aaron Jones. You're starting all 3 running backs. That's not even a question.
Yeah, I think I would sit Cousins in this instance, yeah. I mean, he looked like dog shit last week. Oh, my God.
So... I might start Kirk Cousins over Drew Brees at this point. I mean, are we really going to sit here and say Drew Brees looks good? Like, can you pick up Joe Burrow? He's got to be available. He's got to be available. Like, there's got to be a quarterback on the market that is better than what, right? There's got to be someone.
Not in a super flex, not necessarily.
There could be. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick available?
I'll say check on Herbert. He may be sitting out there. Yeah,
Herbert's a great start this week. I have him in 2 DFS lineups. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like Breeze Cousins for me. The answer is C. Whoever you can get off the waiver. I don't want any of those guys. Like Tannehill's everywhere. Minshew's in a lot of leagues, and also someone flying under the radar. I've seen Goff in a lot of my leagues too. Yeah. He's got Philly there, so just someone dependable. Because Cousins and Breeze, no, thank you.
He came back with it's a 2 QB league and no one's available.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sit Cousins.
Can we still choose option C?
Yeah.
Taysom Hill.
You might be better off getting 0 points and leaving one of them on the bench.
He's
No
no
Jeff
Jeff
Driscoll.
Driscoll. Wow. Okay.
Only one quarterback scored negative last week of those people. So sit Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I'll take Breeze there then.
Okay, let's guess at the quarterback position who's most likely to get hurt this week and pick up their backup.
That's a terrible game, Joe.
I hate to say it, but do we need to go get Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, like Jalen Hurts.
Do not put that bad juju on my team.
Yeah, I mean,
And Joe just chimed in there with us too.
Jalen Hurts.
He's an Eagles fan too, so be careful.
So, yeah, I mean, that's tough. Breeze is just, he's the better quarterback skill-wise, so you got to go with him. Steely McBeam asks, where we're all from and most money we've ever won in a league. I'll kick that one off. I am from the Boston area, and the most money I've won ever in just one season in a league was $1,000. The buy-in is $165 every year. So yeah. Also, my dad's league also kicked all of his friends' asses, went 13-2 that year. So screw you, Dad. I beat you. Rob, you.
So believe it or not, I'll look like a poser. But I'm from the Ann Arbor area. So long story, family's Pats fans. So sorry. And most money I have ever won in a league. Joe's going to be offended by this answer, but I was always taught not to talk about my money. So I'm going to go with $0 and pride.
That's okay. That's all right. I love that answer. I wanted to rub it in my dad's face because he was in his league for like 6 or 7 years. Like, oh, you're too young. No one else wants to drop out. 15 years old. I smack him and his old ass friends' asses. Sorry, Dad. Love you. Josh, you.
I mean, last year alone, I won. What was the purse in our dynasty league? What was it? It was over 600, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was around.
I did win 2 leagues last year, so I mean, total I won over $1,000. I think that's the most I've ever won in one season.
If we're doing one season, I've won 14. If we're doing one season, yeah, I'm gonna keep gloating here. So. I love rubbing that in my dad's face. I love it. Ryan, you.
Northeast Ohio, a town called Massillon. It's actually.
Oh yeah, I'm from Florida, by the way. I didn't even get to that point.
The armpit of America.
It's where Paul Brown was actually a high school coach before he blew up to do huge things at Ohio State and Cleveland and Cincinnati.
That's pretty cool.
I've never won anything substantial, but one very cool story I have. I actually met a member of the Foot Clan at a local hobby shop and helped him take down a 20K GPP that week. So
nice.
Yeah,
he better kick you some of that money.
Yeah,
he did not, but I never even thought to ask. That's what I'm there for.
Not even like a steak dinner, like a coupon or something.
Nah.
Wow. What?
I mean, this was like a random dude I met.
We don't do this for the money, Joe. We do it for the clout, okay? Don't you know this
sticker.
by now?
Yeah, he saw my sticker on my laptop and said, "Oh, do you watch the Fantasy Footballers?" And I was like, "Yeah, I write for the Fantasy Footballers." And so we sat down and started talking about his lineup. And then the next week, I didn't even get the chance to talk to him. He had told somebody else, that kid won $20,000 on the advice you gave him. I was like, cool, good for him.
I love that.
So,
also
awesome.
From Steely, Brian, he says you look like Mall Cop.
Yeah.
I assume that's a reference to
Paul Blart. You don't know that movie? Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I assume that's a reference to Paul Blart. Can you let me finish my damn sentence, John?
Never.
You do have the same. You do have the same mustache.
I love it.
That's it.
Wheezy
Mustache mania,
Wheeze,
baby.
Wheezy Wheeze and the mustache.
The mustache
Weezy
man.
Weez, the mustache man.
Yeah. All right, from David over on Facebook. Sup, dudes? Thoughts on Jerick McKinnon's value once Raheem Mostert comes back? So not his value this week and in the sequential weeks, how do we feel about when Mostert is actually back fully healthy? Assuming that Tevin Coleman is also back fully healthy. Let's say fully healthy backfield for San Francisco. How do we feel about McKinnon, Rob?
Fully healthy backfield. So you're assuming like you're talking like weeks from now, like when Coleman's back?
I was gonna say Coleman's gonna miss some extended time. I think we could go without even considering
Without Coleman. All right, so let's
I think
Coleman's
probably going to land in the IR, I would guess, based on what I've been reading, and based on everything that's been happening. So if we're talking like just the McKinnon, Mostert, and I guess Jeff Wilson and potentially JaMychal Hasty, I'm not really a McKinnon guy, but I do want a piece of that backfield. It's tricky because Shanahan does it scheme-based, and it's going to be one of those game-to-game things that I think is a little different, which is what's tough. Like, remember last year Coleman had like a 4-touchdown game, then got like 5 carries the next week. Yep. Like that's kind of what Shanahan does. So I'm holding McKinnon, and like he's more of a flex play, but I wouldn't be relying on him, and I sure wouldn't be like buying him or anything like that. But if he's on my bench, then I'm holding him. It's just going to be tough to find out when he should be played. So I'd be playing in games that should be like high over unders, because that's when someone like McKinnon will get his work.
All right. Another question from Jake over on YouTube. He's sad that he's asking this after he drafted 3 receivers in the first 4 rounds, but is there any love for the rookie out of Arizona State, Brandon Ayuk? He said Scotty Miller failed him last week. Is there a guy he can look at on the waivers that he thinks that you guys think is better than Ayuk or potentially Scotty Miller?
Anyone kick that to Ryan since he writes our waiver wire column.
Go look for Russell Gage first and foremost. He's out there in far too many leagues. I don't hate Ayuk. The problem is, and I mean, Rob hit on this well, just like with his running backs, Shanahan's schemes can sometimes kill his wide receivers as well, to where, I mean, Ayuk, I think, saw 4 targets last week. It's something where he can get more involved, but you just don't know what weeks it's going to happen. N'Keal Harry saw a ton of targets last week. He was 79% available when I wrote the waiver target. And then I'm telling you, I know this sounds ridiculous, but Laviska Shenault is on pace for 950 to 1,000 total yards. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to run the ball. Go get Laviska Shenault, especially for this week with DJ Chark being not playing or not playing at 100%. I think this is going to be a good week for Shenault. I think you're looking at 1 or 2 touchdowns easy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about Laviska Shenault.
And I would take any of, like, Gage, Harry, Shenault. I would take any of them over Ayuk at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get super deep. If Damiere Byrd continues to be a thing, like Byrd was getting a lot of looks Sunday.
I think a lot of that was driven by Seattle, though.
And I don't see him throwing 40 times again. It's just,
they have given up over 200 yards more than the next closest defense just to wide receivers alone. Like, they are getting lit. Oh.
So what you're saying is Dak Prescott should throw for 500 yards.
Oh, I found this great stat today on CeeDee Lamb. So he's running over 90% of his snaps. He's taking just from the slot.
Yep.
The Seahawks have allowed 27 receptions to wide receivers in the slot.
Look at Julian Edelman last week.
That's what I'm saying. 8 for 179 just from Edelman.
That was Edelman's career high in receiving yards, playoffs and regular season.
Yeah, and then just taking the whole scope of wide receivers, Atlanta's starting trio combined for 27 receptions against Seattle. The starting trio of Edelman, N'Keal Harry, Damiere Byrd, 22 receptions. Like, the Dallas Cowboys, if Michael Gallup can't get right this week, there is zero hope for him this year.
Also, go ahead, Rob. I know you want to say something there.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say 1 or 2 other names to throw in there. Tre'Quan Smith had a pretty good game. If Thomas doesn't go, he to me at least eyeball test looked like the number 2 there as opposed to Sanders in the game that I watched.
Definitely.
Yeah, he was running the X.
He was
running out of the X spot. Yeah, they basically just took Thomas out, put Smith in.
Yeah, and it looks like his route tree's matured a little bit, and he's still everywhere in all my leagues. So he's somebody to consider. And the last but not least is a little bit more of a desperation play, but like Curtis Samuel could be used in a different way now that CMC's out. Like, a lot of targets coming out of that for CMC. And right when he left the game, they actually gave him, I think it was 4 carries or something like that. And he had more rushing yards at Ohio State than receiving yards. So Samuel could be used as a gadget guy. So It's a bit of a ceiling play though.
And they even called him a possible backup running back in July. So
just to toot more of CeeDee Lamb's horn, because I have said since the dawn of them drafting him that CeeDee Lamb will be the wide receiver 1 in Dallas by week 8. It only took him 2 weeks. He had the most receiving yards on the team last week. So CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 1, Dallas Cowboys.
I'm just sad that I only have him in one dynasty league this year.
Yeah, I mean, not dynasty. I have him in, I think, all but 2 leagues in total. One of them being the dynasty league. Yeah. Oh God, CeeDee Lamb.
I have him in our some bullshit league. So
CeeDee Lamb,
yeah.
What a guy. Oh, I'm so happy I was all over him. I mean, it didn't take a freaking genius to realize it, but very happy. Okay, we're just going to completely skip the downs. We do want to preface, we were full on ready to poop on the Falcons. We were ready to let it rip. I mean, again, with the ridiculousness, they what the hell was that onside kick?
Bad coaching.
That's crazy.
Holy crap, that was bad coaching.
It bend it like Beckham is how it came back. Like, what the hell was that? That's the best onside kick ever.
Yeah.
Also, I had Greg Zuerlein as my kicker of the week.
There you go.
There's an argument for that being like the dumbest play in history. Like that was
There's
so
a very
stupid.
good argument. Yeah.
Except didn't Orlovsky run out of the
we're in
back?
the playoffs?
True, but was it Orlovsky who like ran out the back of the end zone on purpose?
Yes.
That's the other one that's up there.
Dan Orlovsky, who has no clue what he's talking about on any ESPN show he appears on, is in the same conversation as that play. Like, just box the guy out. Like, it's not illegal to box someone out. Oh God, it was so painful that there were 3 Cowboys players around the ball, and the Falcons just like, oh. Yeah, this is fine.
They clearly thought they couldn't touch it until they got to 10. Like someone made a baseball reference, like when you let a ball go foul and then pick it up. That was the perfect.
That's the perfect reference.
That's the only explanation for that.
The third baseman
bad.
The third baseman thinks it's going foul, and then it curves back in on a bunt, and the guy's just sitting there at first base. FF Angie asks, are we picking on the Falcons? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? How do you not pick on the Falcons?
Who's not?
They haven't won a road game in September since 2017, and they continuously love just blowing big leads. That is a staple. I mean,
Didn't they blow a big one a few years back?
They did. They blew a huge second half lead.
I can't remember it very well.
It was like 25 points or something.
Yeah,
I lived in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta when that happened, and I've never seen a more dejected people than those people that Monday.
I love that the argument in that game by Falcons fans was James White was short, not the fact that the Falcons had a 25-point lead. Not the fact that Kyle Shanahan threw the football or that Matt Ryan took a sack to get them out of field goal range. It was James White was short. He very may have well been an inch short of the goal line.
Should have never been that close to begin with.
Yeah, wouldn't have mattered. Tom Brady would have snuck it in at that point anyway. 96% conversion rate on 3rd and 4th and 1s. Yeah.
That was the only time I would ever say to someone, establish the freaking run. Like, that was the only time. All you had to do is hand it off a few more times and the game is over.
That was
it.
I'm
not mad about it. So
no, not mad about it at all. All right, into our upsides here. Rob, you are playing as the quote unquote guest. Our guest Troy last week was 2-2, so you got some pretty decent standards to hold up to. Josh, I see you raising your hand like a nice little schoolboy. Go ahead, Joshua.
Oh, I wasn't. I was stretching or doing something with my hand. Sorry, I don't know what you were looking at.
Your hand was doing some weird.
I was just.
Everyone listening on the podcast, I don't want that to sound
Joe,
weird.
I would never raise my hand to talk. I would just cut you off. I think you know this by now.
Very confused. All right, upside. Rob, at quarterback, you have Ryan Tannehill in Minnesota.
I love that.
Joshua Kelly in Carolina. Home against Carolina, right? They're home?
No, I think they're in.
No, it's in Los Angeles.
It's in Los
One of those
Angeles.
is wrong because they both say at. So
yeah, so Robbie Anderson is Robbie Anderson is in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Against
I'm
the
a talker,
Chargers.
not a writer.
That's perfectly fine. And Mike Gesicki Thursday night in Jacksonville. Ryan, you were 1-3 last week. You're 4-4 overall. Tough week last week.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew. So he says,
That could be your start of the week every week. I'm just throwing that out.
I mean, at this point,
Until
nobody's
people,
picking him up on waivers.
until
and I
people
don't
pick
get
his
it.
ass up. I guarantee you for the next 4 weeks we'll be talking about him, but we'll get to that later.
James White, love it. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard's out, and Logan Thomas, who we will get to a little bit later as well. He's on your stream of the week.
Yep.
Josh, you were also 1-3 last week. Wow, I was the best of the bunch here last week. Josh, you're 3-5 overall. Your quarterback is Daniel Jones against the San Francisco 49ers. Jeff Wilson Jr. in New York against the Giants. Preston Williams in Jacksonville on Thursday night. And Jordan Akins in Pittsburgh. Myself, I was 2-2 last week, 4-4 overall. I got Joe Burrow, Kenyon Drake, Mike Williams. That may really bite me in the ass, but we'll see. And Drew Sample. So, I will start here with, I think, not the most intriguing, because I feel like, I mean, what did he have? 23 carries, I think. Josh Kelly last week was being force-fed the football. Rob, I mean, Carolina's defense is garbage. What do you think Kelly does this week?
I mean, it's more about Carolina's defense being absolute garbage than it is anything else, because I mean, Kelly got a lot of work, which I mean surprised me. I've been a big Kelly guy, but 23 carries, I never would have guessed that in a million years. But it's more so like Josh Jacobs rattled off like a $140 total yards on him, and Fournette even had 116, and it was like his first game fully playing, and even he smashed. So I think the list I saw had Kelly like in the back end like 28, 27, something like that. So I think just with his volume and how bad they are, and the way the game should hopefully go for the Chargers, I think Kelly's definitely going to outplay his current ranking. I don't think he's going to have a huge game, but I think he's going to have a lot better game than he thinks, because I don't think people have really established what he is in that offense. He really is the new Melvin Gordon, just not as much of a man-child as Gordon was, obviously.
Yeah, him and Eckler, they both have 35 carries through 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's sixth most so far in the NFL through 2 weeks. Carolina, just awful. And they give up the most receptions to running backs, too. I would not be surprised if both Eckler and Kelly are top 20 running backs this week.
Yeah, I could see a Chubb and Hunt type game from last week happening this week. Yeah.
And four red zone carries for Josh Kelly last week, too.
And the Chargers are probably going to be playing from ahead a lot, and that's going to be where Kelly's going to live and get his carries. So, I mean, no Christian McCaffrey. DJ, on both sides of the ball, each team has some pretty good matchups. Moore's going to go against Casey Hayward. He's been good, but he's been known to give up some big games now and again. But Robbie Anderson, Rob has him down there, has an absolutely fantastic matchup. 2 straight weeks over 100 yards.
Yeah.
Like, Bridgewater is looking at Robbie Anderson, so
yeah,
he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And I will go to Mr. Ryan over here with James White. So obviously, tragic news of his dad passing and his mom being put in the hospital after a car accident, which is why he was a late scratch to Sunday's game. A lot of people believe that if White was playing, the New England had a solid chance and probably could have beaten Seattle in that game. They're playing the Raiders at home this week, so they travel back across the country to Foxborough. You think James White has a good game this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to harp too much on the grief game because it's bigger than football, but he did lose his dad last week, as we talked about. You got to pay attention if he's actually going to play this week, but it sounds like he's probably going to. I'm willing to guarantee a touchdown. He did have 5 carries and 3 receptions in week 1. Not great, but not terrible. But more importantly, we just saw the Saints get torched by Las Vegas running backs. We just saw the Vegas get torched by the Saints running backs. 13 RB catches for 140 yards, 9 out of 9 for Alvin Kamara. I think that's a similar role to what we'll see White play in this offense, and Damiere Byrd got those targets because White wasn't there, I feel like. So I think it's going to be a big week for James White, especially in any PPR format, and then he'll have the grief game going for him. He's going to fight and score one for his dad.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a good point looking at Kamara last week, absolutely torching the Raiders. And yeah, it seemed like, I don't know if this was just because it was a closer game and they seemed to be playing from behind a lot, but they were letting Cam sit in the pocket, and he looked pretty damn good throwing the football. It was a little surprising to me to see how comfortable he was in his first real game sitting in the pocket. He threw for almost 400 yards. And I think that may be a new look of the offense going forward, because we all said it after week 1. He's not going to last running the football 15 times every single game. He's not built like that anymore. He's too big. He's been beat up his whole career. There's going to be games where he may rush 10 times, 9 times, but we saw it last week, like, what was it, 5, 6 carries? And I think that's what a lot of people expect him to be at, is in that 4 to 7 carry range.
I think he was still at 8 or 9 last week, but
okay.
He's just a goal line machine.
Oh my gosh.
He's their goal line back.
Yeah, Sony Michel is droppable in all formats as far as I'm concerned, because he's never scoring a touchdown again for New England.
But hey, can we talk about how no one signed Cam? That's all I could think the whole game.
That's unbelievable to me.
He looks great. He looks healthy and great. Like, even I was skeptical. I'm blown away by that.
Everyone knows here, I was never a big fan of Cam Newton. I lost all respect for him when he didn't dive for that football on that fumble in the Super Bowl. Lost all respect. And he's gaining some back. He's clearly showing that he wants to play well. He's there. He's buying into the Patriots system.
One other thing I'll throw out, Cam targeted the running back 8 times last week, so there were concerns about how often he would target the running back. I don't think that's going to be an issue either. So
Sexy Rexy, baby.
There you go.
And Rex Burkhead is nowhere near as good as James White in
Not
the
even
passing
close.
game.
No.
So, yeah. And Josh, over to you, my friend, for an upside. I'm going to look at Daniel Jones because, my God, he doesn't know how to hold on to the football. He also loses Saquon Barkley, and now he has lost Sterling Shepard. He still has Golden Tate, Evan Ingram, Darius Slayton. Like, he still has weapons around him. Dion Lewis is coming out of the backfield. They just signed Devonta Freeman, which it'll be a shock if he actually, plays a good amount of snaps this week. You really like Daniel Jones to be a top 15 quarterback?
I mean, let's be real. Who the hell is rushing the passer in San Francisco?
Fred
I mean,
Warner.
I'm legitimately asking because they're all hurt.
I mean, Fred Warner, Eric Armstead.
Somebody's got to cover Evan Ingram then. And that's what Fred Warner does best.
It's going to be Jaquiski Tart probably in the secondary.
So my whole thing is that, yes, you're going to get the turnovers for Daniel Jones. Throughout his career, he averages 2 turnovers a game, whether that's an interception and a fumble, 2 picks, whatever it is. You can basically pencil him in for 2 turnovers. The Giants have the absolute worst pass blocking line in all of football, according to Pro Football Focus, through 2 weeks. But again, I say, who the hell is rushing the passer? They don't have anybody on San Francisco. They're all hurt. This is Daniel Jones' time to shine. They drafted him to be the guy. Yes, I understand they built this entire offense around Saquon Barkley. They were going to run it through him. Well, now Daniel Jones has to step up. He has to lead this team. So this is going to be the chance for him to show not only Giants brass and fans, but himself and the rest of us that he can be a legitimate quarterback. Evan Ingram is there. Darius Slayton's there. Golden Tate is there. He still has weapons. So he should be able to get 250, 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, even if you factor in those 2 turnovers. That should be good enough for a top 15 game.
Starting every week, you're down 4 points. If it's 0-0, you're 0 to -4.
Oh, I know. I'm aware.
Daniel Jones guarantee. I mean, look, I've been saying that I love Daniel Jones since the beginning of the season. I think the amount of weapons around him, even with Shepard and Barkley down, like,
hey, I'm 1-3 so far. I was 1-3 on last week. What the hell do I have to lose?
Okay. I mean, no, you're not wrong. I mean, you threw freaking Jeff Wilson Jr. in there.
Hey, I have an entire conference plays with most of the obvious names. I got to go deep dives for these. So,
oh, it's very true. And to me, you want to talk about deep dive? Drew Sample, baby. Listen. Joe Burrow loves tight ends. I don't know what it is. Go back to college. He loved Thad Moss. Like, that was very clear. He loved Thaddeus Moss. And I was mad that the Bengals didn't go and get Thaddeus Moss. I thought that would have been a great NFL transition for Joe Burrow. But
Moss got hurt anyway. So.
Moss did get hurt. But Burrow looks comfortable. Like, I thought it would take a little longer for him to, get a little acclimated to the NFL. Week 1, the guy was running a 2-minute drill, and his team should have been playing in overtime. And last week, like, he was lining up his team to get a comeback against the Browns, and he threw for over 300 yards, and he has the ability to run as well. He's a lot faster than I thought he was running the football if he ever needs to scramble. And, I mean, Uzomah goes down with an injury. He's done for the season. Uzomah had a decent week 1, and Drew Sample, once Uzomah went down, Drew Sample had 9 targets.
Like, Uzomah had a decent week too.
Yeah, Uzomah had a good week too. So, like, and now you take Uzomah out of the equation, Sample is going to get all the looks at that tight end position. Like, I'm not going to tell you that Drew Sample is going to drop a 40 burger on your opponent, but if you're in a bind and you stream tight ends like some of us do, Ryan especially, because he does the stream of the weeks for tight ends, dude, Drew Sample has a great matchup this week too. Look what Tyler Higbee did to Josh's Eagles.
Let's not. I don't need to relive
Boy,
that.
he had 5 catches and 3 of them were touchdowns.
Yeah.
They're all in the red zone too.
All in the red zone. And so I think Drew Sample has a great week. I think every single pass catcher for the Cincinnati Bengals has a fantastic week. But yeah, I think Drew Sample, if you're streaming tight ends and you're in a deep league, I think Drew Sample has to be available in at least 85% of leagues. Like there's got to be a big number of leagues that don't have him. So yeah. A question from YouTube, and I'm going to butcher this name. Samanyu Joshi. It was a guess. Jerick McKinnon or Devontae Parker in the flex. Devontae Parker, the questionable tag was taken off of him according to my lineup in Sleeper. So Jerick McKinnon or Devontae Parker this week, Rob?
Give me Parker there, just because I know the volume should be there at least because it's been fairly consistent. He's been a little hobbled, but to be honest, I don't trust Shanahan, and that's a compliment to him because he's a lot like Belichick in the way he will re-scheme for the team they're playing. He's a bit unpredictable. I'm just kind of staying away from the Niners backfield until I see what it's like without the guys that went down. So give me Parker there.
Josh?
Yeah, I'll take Parker as well. He's the unquestioned number 1 in Miami. I think this game's going to be a shootout, and I would be absolutely shocked if it's not. I have Preston Williams as an upside play as well. I think this can be a get-right game for him, but again, it all boils down to, if Parker's covered, Williams has to catch the football. But Parker's going to catch the football because they're going to throw him the football. If he doesn't re-injure the hamstring, if he's able to play the full game, he's going to light it up. I could very easily see an 8-catch 100-yard game, possibly even a touchdown from Parker. And I don't see that from McKinnon this week.
Ryan?
I'm going to guess be on the losing side here. CJ Henderson's going to give Parker fits. Give me McKinnon.
Henderson's been blah through 2 weeks. Come on, man.
Blah. Look at what T.Y. Hilton and Corey Davis
is
did.
old, man. He is done, bro.
He's still T.Y. Hilton. And then Corey Davis, who smoked...
He couldn't do anything against Minnesota.
Corey Davis.
He's more like T.Y. Motel 8 right now. Like he looks like trash out there, dude. He looks bad.
All right, fine. Take Hilton out of the equation. Corey Davis.
That was good, Rob. That
was great. Corey Davis, who smoked the Broncos in week 1, 3 catches. And yes, one of them was a touchdown, but it was 3 catches. Look,
do you want
Henderson
9 points
good.
out of your flex? I mean,
like,
McKinnon, the Niners are going to beat the Giants. We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah.
McKinnon is going to see volume. They don't have anybody else to give it to.
Listen, I was just going to play devil's advocate and just say, here's a reason to start Jerick McKinnon. I think Parker does. It's a shootout. I think Parker's going to have close to 100 yards and at least a touchdown. But I think both guys have tremendous upside. The issue with Parker is CJ Henderson has looked good. That's my only argument for Jerick McKinnon.
Parker might even have 2 tackles when Fitzpatrick throws to CJ Henderson when he's trying to throw to Parker.
That's true. If you get points for tackles for your receivers in your league, start them. But yeah, I think that's my one argument for Jerick McKinnon is that CJ Henderson has looked good. And I mean, he was a first round pick, correct? Out of Florida.
Yep.
The Jaguars
Ninth
took him in
overall.
the first round. Yeah, and I think he looked pretty good. So just be wary of that. I would still go Devontae Parker in that instance. I'm in a league where I'm starting both of those guys, so that's just that's how high I am on both of them this week. All right, downside. I suck at this. Rob, Troy was also 2-2 last week, so our guest has been 2-2 so far. Rob, you have Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Allen Robinson, and Tyler Higbee after 2 big weeks, putting Higbee on the pine here. Ryan, 2-2 last week, 5-3 overall. You have Jared Goff, Naheem Hines, Brandon Cooks, and Austin Hooper. Josh, also 2-2 last week. You're 6-2 overall.
Been much better with the downsides.
Yes. You have Derek Carr in New England, Todd Gurley, home against the Bears, Traquan Smith, home against the Packers, and Dalton Schultz in Seattle. Myself, I was 1-2-1. Each receiver I have picked the last 2 weeks have been injured. So I went with someone who wasn't injured heading into this week. I picked in week 1, I had Sutton. I had Sutton, I believe, in week 1, and then I had A.J. Brown last week. So there's your 2 ties that don't.
Oh, I thought it was Kenny Galladay.
I Galladay
cursed this week.
Yeah, right. Who's he cursing this week?
I cursed Terry McLaurin. So
No. Take it back. Take it back.
Look, he hasn't been listed on the injury report. But if McLaurin gets hurt in practice tomorrow, it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
In that week 4 graphic, we're just gonna have a big long black strip. Like we're not putting anybody here.
Because
if Terry McLaurin gets hurt, just give me 2 minutes to come back on here and yell at Joe, and then I'll leave at the beginning of the episode. Have another guest ready. I'll just come and scream at him and then leave.
I love it.
So it's funny because the 2 guys I picked, A.J. Brown and Kenny Galladay, weren't on the injury report until Wednesday night or Thursday morning. So
sorry about practice today.
Sorry about Terry McLaurin, everybody. But I was 1-2-1 last week. I'm 1-5-2 overall. I'm picking Drew Brees this week, Mike Davis, Terry McLaurin, and Evan Ingram. And I guess I'll just talk on McLaurin. I didn't like McLaurin last week, and he lit it up. So this is me saying...
your reverse psychology is this?
No. This is me saying that if Terry McLaurin beats Denzel Ward and, plays against him well for, 7 catches, 80 yards, somewhere that's at least 15 points, you're never sitting McLaurin again. Denzel Ward looked really good against A.J. Green.
Yeah, he did.
And I understand that A.J. Green is a little older. He's still A.J. Green. He's still big, and he can still run routes. McLaurin looked fantastic last week, and if he can look that good against Denzel Ward this week, you're never sitting him again. So I have McLaurin as a downside because I think Ward is going to shut him down. But if he doesn't, you're never sitting Terry McLaurin again. He is a must-start every single week.
Keep in mind, these 2 played together at Ohio State. They're very familiar with each other from their practice days. So,
yeah.
And Ward knows Haskins as well. So.
Yep,
yes.
Exactly. And Haskins has not been model of consistency so far in the NFL. So
no. So sorry to all McLaurin fans. He'll be hurt by Sunday. It is sad. And also, just quick on Mike Davis. Everyone jumped on the Brian Hill train last year. Whenever he was promoted and the starter went down, everyone chill. Okay, Mike Davis did nothing in week 1 last year with the Bears. So let's pump the brakes here. They're not going to force feed Mike Davis. That's just not going to happen. Okay, pumping the brakes there. All right, to Rob here. I would love to hear about Tyler Higbee because he's absolutely been on fire. So why don't you like Higbee this week?
Well, to be honest, this might have been a little bit of a misunderstanding on my part. I thought it was just basically where they're going to finish based on the ranking that they had. So
that's fine.
That's about right.
And I was using Fantasy Pros, and they had him as a tight end 4. And so the main reason for that's kind of what jumped out at me because I'm a big Higbee guy. Like anyone who follows the Ballers knows I've been talking about Tyler Higbee for 6 months. I'm a big fan. I just think tight end 4 against Buffalo. with the way like Kupp, Woods, Higbee, and occasionally Everett kind of playing there, it was more of just kind of a playing the odds thing that I don't think back-to-back top 5 tight end weeks are going to happen. It doesn't mean I think Higbee's a sit necessarily, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that was probably my fault. So
That's valid. I mean, that's the whole idea behind the
Yeah.
downside. Yeah, that's the whole idea of the downside is
Is that
that
you're just not gonna
they're
get
coming in under expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rob, it's like for you, like you're not sitting Deshaun Watson. Like that's just you're probably not sitting Deshaun Watson.
But lower them expectations.
Yes, you just have to
No,
temper
thanks.
expectations. Yeah, a lot of this isn't like, hey, sit Deshaun Watson. It's more of like, hey, you drafted Deshaun Watson expecting him to be a top 5 quarterback, top 6 quarterback every week. He's not going to be that this week, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, this was more me trying to go 4-0 than give anyone advice.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Isn't that how Fantasy Pros does their rankings
I
anyway?
love it.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, wow, I'm going to get a lot of crap for that. If anyone saw the drama with that earlier in the summer.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, a couple quick things over from YouTube. Jake, again, our favorite guy, he said he'll start dropping donations if we can use our powers to curse his opponent's players. So here goes Joe's powers. I'm putting it out in the universe, cursing everyone's players. But another question over on YouTube, I think this is a really solid trade question here. I think it helps both sides. So Rain, not Rainn Wilson, the actor that portrayed Dwight Schrute on The Office, I assume. He asks, is Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster a good trade for Calvin Ridley? I mean, so to me, I think Ridley is above Juju, and it just depends who your other running backs are. So to me, I think it's a good trade. I think it's a good trade if you get the Ridley side of things. It helps both sides. Like both sides get great players. I think I would rather have Ridley in that instance because I think Ridley can put up the same amount of points that Hunt and Juju will in one player. Rob, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I think this is one of those questions where with trade questions in general, it's my first response is always kind of like, well, what's your team situation? I think this is a great question and a great one to examine. Like if I have Ridley and I just lost CMC, I'm taking the Juju and Hunt side.
Correct.
If it's a league where I have 2 flexes or something like that. So I think I'm taking that side unless I'm like, if I'm a 2-0 juggernaut and I've avoided most injuries, I'm probably holding Ridley. But value-wise, I think it's a really fair trade and there's an argument either way. So that's one of those where that's the kind of trade I would make in a league.
Yeah, if you're fishing for Ridley right now, probably not the best time to do it because you're not going to have a higher value than anybody in the league.
Yeah, his value can only go down from this point.
Yeah.
Josh?
I mean, I on the surface, I think it's a good deal both ways. But again, I think it's very team dependent, kind of like Rob pointed out. I mean, all the injuries at running back, like if you need a running back, Kareem Hunt can be a solid, flex every week and have some RB2 weeks most weeks. So that can definitely help. And I've been all aboard the Deontay Johnson hype train. So, obviously I like DJ more than Juju, but that's not saying that Juju is a bad player by any means. Ben Roethlisberger still looks for him. He still throws him the football. He's going to get his targets. He's going to get his catches and his yards. So do those guys equal Ridley? Right now, no, because all Ridley does is score touchdowns. He's apparently the new Chris Carter.
Yeah.
But again, it's all very team dependent, and Rain's kind of chiming in that the guy just lost Saquon. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think it's a good trade on both sides, really.
And with the backs that Rain has, it's definitely a great trade for him as well. I just don't know how many wide receivers you can start because Edelman is
pretty loaded room. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're
to be honest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, Rob. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, to be honest, in that situation, I'm probably not actually because like Jones, Montgomery, Kelly seems like it's a lot left, but the way running backs go down, Kelly's not a sure thing. Montgomery is, iffy. And I don't think the wide receiver upgrade on Edelman or Diggs, if you're starting 3, is really worth losing the running back. So
exactly.
I wouldn't unless it's like a 2-2 league, then maybe. But I don't think you need to make that trade necessarily. This early, I'm keeping the depth.
If you only need to start one running back, I think you send it because at that point you're replacing Juju with Ridley and your receiving core is Edelman, Hopkins, Ridley, and Diggs. That's
disgusting.
That's loaded. And then Aaron Jones obviously outplaying his ADP already because his round 2 ADP should have been round 1.
Exactly. Regression my ass.
Yeah. And so you look at it, I mean, in that instance, man, I would do the trade. I'm big on Calvin Ridley this year. I wasn't liking where he was being drafted in the preseason. He fell to me in a couple of leagues, which is why I took him. Which is why I wasn't like touting him because he was being taken like wide receiver 18, and I just wasn't sure about that yet. And clearly, he's proven me the hell wrong. He should have been a top 10 guy. If he continues with what he's doing right now, especially if Julio's hurt, Ridley's one of the best route runners in the league. I'm not worried if he's getting the number 1 defensive back.
I'm starting to feel like history is repeating itself in Atlanta.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Like this is right around the same age that Roddy White was when Julio started to kind of really make that move to being the number 1 guy. Now you're seeing Ridley doing the exact same thing to Julio Jones.
The only thing I'll say about Ridley too, though, is like be a little careful because like he's a monster and I love Ridley, but 4 touchdowns 2 weeks, he's literally on a 32 touchdown pace, which is not going to hold up.
Record.
And I'm sure Ridley, I think he easily finishes in the top 12 for sure, top 15 guaranteed. However, Juju also is going to have some big games, so that is like a close one there. For me, I really think it depends on the lineup settings and the scoring settings we'd have to get, but it's not a bad trade.
I'm never trading myself down to 3 running backs. I can't make that trade.
I couldn't do that either.
Same, especially in week 3. And what we're seeing, I'm not giving up running backs right now unless it really makes my team better.
Yeah, that's fair. And just to circle back to Roddy White, how about that name? Old fantasy football name right there, Roddy White. I have been rewatching The League with my girlfriend.
Love it.
And it's her first time watching it. She absolutely loves it, which
awesome.
I think is amazing. Because she played 2 years of fantasy football, is now not playing because she thinks it's too stressful, but she absolutely loves that show. And the names that have been dropping in that show, like Pierre Thomas,
Niall Davis was one I heard the other day when I was watching.
How about Stevie Breston and Donald Jones? Like
yes.
What? Oh God, I was like, oh my God, these names are amazing. I love Santana Moss with the Redskins. Oh God, I love that. That's amazing. Okay. Quickly through some of these downsides here because we're up against the hour now, but we've had a lot of fun here. Thanks for all the interaction, everybody. We appreciate it. Ryan, real quickly, let's touch on Brandon Cooks. Why don't you like him?
We kind of already touched on this. I'm not really eager to start anybody against Pittsburgh. I think they're not exactly locking down wide receivers right now, but it's not worth the gamble. I feel like if anyone's going to have a big game, it's going to be Cobb underneath. Cooks was the wide receiver 27 last week, and I don't see him doing better than what he did against Baltimore against Pittsburgh.
Nice. Tommy throwing 2 more names into the mix. Tommy Garrett, friend of the show. Ahmad Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs.
Yes.
Part of the Earth, Wind, and Fire trio from the New York Giants. Also, congrats to Tommy.
Congrats, Tommy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There with PFN. Congratulations, Tommy. Want to give you a formal shout out on here. And Josh, to you, Dalton Schultz. Why not?
If you look at what has happened, and again, I brought this up earlier, Seattle gets lit up by wide receivers, but the tight ends haven't really done much. I understand that, New England doesn't really have a tight end that they throw to, but we all hyped up Hayden Hurst, and he had the most routes run among tight ends and only had 3 catches.
Yep.
It's because the wide receivers are open, so they're not going to the tight ends. So I think that, again, you're going to see something very similar with Dallas, that the first, second, the third reads are the wide receivers. And Dalton Schultz, coming off this big game, everybody's going to expect him to do well. And I think you really need to kind of temper the expectations this week. This is going to be a CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be a Michael Gallup. It's going to be a Amari Cooper game.
All right. And now to our stream of the week from our Stream Master General, Mr. Ryan Weiss, Wheezy Weiss, the mustache man. Quarterback, Ryan Tannehill against Minnesota. I mean, it shocked the world when Derrick Henry didn't run for 500 yards last week like I very incorrectly predicted, and Ryan Tannehill lit the world on fire. Minnesota's defense looks awful. You like him again this week?
Yeah, he's completing 70% of his passes right now, 6 TDs to no interceptions. I put in my notes, he's looking more like Kirk Cousins than Kirk Cousins does right now. The Vikings are in the top half of the league in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. And until Danielle Hunter comes back, there's no reason to be afraid of that pass rush. And if he manages to get A.J. Brown back this week, there's no reason A.J. Brown doesn't drop 2 touchdowns on these guys. Tannehill's available in about 50% of all leagues, Yahoo and ESPN.
Love it.
Yeah, I do have Corey Davis as one of my plays in my confidence columns this week. So, and that's again even with A.J. Brown playing. Obviously, that bumps up if A.J. Brown misses.
Yeah, and Rob has Tannehill as his upside for the quarterback.
Yeah, I saw that.
Week,
that made me happy.
Everyone's in
Great
on
minds
Tannehill
think
this week.
alike.
There we go.
Yes.
And then we'll all get screwed going into next week anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's not like Ryan and Rob write for the same organization. All right, tight end. Logan Thomas of the Washington football team. Go ahead.
9 targets last week. The Browns give up the most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. And say what you will, Joe Burrow loves the tight end. CJ Uzomah and Drew Sample aren't lighting the world on fire. They're not the most talented tight ends. Neither is Logan Thomas, but if they're going to be targeted and he is the number 2 target on this team, he's going to light the Browns up. He only managed to reel in 4 balls of those 9 receptions last week, but that was against Arizona, who's looked great this year so far on defense. So I'm thinking Thomas is going to be a great play, available in 70% of Yahoo and ESPN leagues.
Yeah, and Thomas is their big body guy too. He's their red zone threat if you want to go jump ball. I mean, McLaurin can get open, but he's not going to be that big jump ball guy. That's going to be Logan Thomas. And for
plus McLaurin's not going to be there.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
that's true.
Yeah, he's gonna get hurt like Friday. So.
Could you know what would have been completely ironic is if we got an update mid-show saying that Terry.
Oh my God, that would be the absolute.
Could you imagine?
worst.
I would have picked next week. I would have. You know what? At this point, if he gets hurt, whoever the Patriots are playing against, I'm gonna pick the opposing team's number 1 receiver, and just throw that bad juju out there into the world. Chargers defense playing against the Christian McCaffrey-less Panthers.
And that's one of the biggest part about this. Carolina was already looking like a good matchup for fantasy defenses, and now without CMC, it's just even better. They just gave up a top 3 performance to Tampa Bay last week. There's no reason to expect that they're going to be much better traveling across the country this week. Chargers just held their own more than enough against Kansas City last week, and Kansas City is far more talented than Carolina. And you're going to find the Chargers available in 60% of leagues on ESPN, 50% on Yahoo. Them and Tampa Bay are probably 2 of the defenses I'm looking to start regardless this week. Your big defenses outside of Pittsburgh don't have great matchups, or they're all hurt. So,
But all those Robbie Anderson air yards, what are we gonna do?
yeah, I'll take the interceptions on those.
They'll counteract when they have 75 sacks. And
Yeah,
there you go.
Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram are about to tee up. Also, Jerry Tillery has looked unreal through 2 weeks.
Yes.
Second-year guy at a Notre Dame, I believe. He's looked incredible through 2 weeks.
Well, it helps when you have 2 of the best on the outside that everybody has to focus on. So.
Yes, it does. Okay, my kicker of the week, what everyone has been waiting for. We're an hour and 7 minutes into the show. What everyone's been waiting for. Are you ready? Robbie Gould. Gould right now, to me, I think San Francisco stalls a lot from the 35 towards the end zone. Just because Nick Mullins is the quarterback. And I think at some point they're going to have to stall a few times. That's going to open up plenty of opportunity for Robbie Gould to kick plenty of field goals. On the opposite side of that, San Francisco could hang 50 on them, which is 7 easy extra points for Robbie Gould. And there's 7 extra points.
So it's a win-win is what you're saying.
It's a win-win, essentially. Also, my sleeper kicker that we talked about in week 1, Rodrigo Blankenship, baby.
Yes.
Great week last week. 16 points, helped me pull ahead in one of my leagues. Mr. Goggles himself, I absolutely love Rodrigo Blankenship. If he's available, get him. He's looked pretty good. Despite that one miss I think he had from 29 yards, after he got that out of his system, he's been end-over-end kicks, looked very good. And quickly, for my blurred lines, won the bet last week. It hurt, but at the same time, I won money. I had the Seahawks -3.5. Also picking another home team this week. I am shocked that Pro Football Focus has the probability of the Lions covering +6 higher than 50%. I find that shocking. So I mean,
I live in Michigan. They're gonna get blown
they're gonna get
out.
smacked. Like they're gonna get absolutely
Yeah,
ruined.
Arizona has looked fantastic. for
Unbelievable.
2 weeks.
Like Kyler Murray could hang 150 on the ground. So at this point,
I think he had 67 and 2 touchdowns last week on the ground. So
yeah, and also quick, Rain asked Rodrigo Blankenship over Mason Crosby. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Put the goggles in. Let the youth spread. Put the goggles in. No, Mason Crosby is a good kicker, but I do like Blankenship this week against the Jets. But yeah, this week, I was going through PFF to see the win probability for each team, and I was shocked. I was going to take a home underdog. I think Minnesota was plus 2.5 at home. The Giants were like plus 6 at home. And then I sat there and I said, there's no shot Detroit gets within 6 points of this team. So I think the Cardinals are a lock to win by at least a touchdown. Like, at minimum, you're pushing because there's no way there's no way Arizona's are winning by less than a touchdown. I think they could hang 40 points on them. Their defense has looked unbelievable so far this season. Is Kenny Golladay playing? Like,
they're saying he's trending to play.
I say
He was
limited
back
practice
at practice.
today,
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that may help them in some instance, but man, that's not gonna happen. So yeah, I think it's very easy for Arizona this week. I have Arizona -6 as my blurred lines. Also, the amount of start-sit questions we have had today, love it.
Awesome.
Don't forget, we have a start-sit show 11 a.m. every Saturday. Is Faith joining us this Saturday?
Yes, to my knowledge, she has not told me otherwise.
Okay, Faith.
So you don't
will
have
be-
to host.
I mean, I'm perfectly fine doing that because that's like my job. But no, happy to be an analyst alongside Josh and Ryan as Faith hosts our Start Sit Different Day show on Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern, Facebook Live and Periscope. Check us out there on Saturdays throughout the season. Come ask your start sit, your trade, your ad drop, life questions. We'll answer those. Why not? Life questions. We're here to be your life coaches sometimes. Big thank you here to Rob for dropping in. Resident New England Patriots fan. Absolutely love it. Thanks for coming by, Rob. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Rob. It's been a
thank you guys
pleasure,
for
man.
having me. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, man.
I appreciate it, man. And one more time before I do our whole wrap-up spiel here, where can everyone find you and your work?
So they can find me at thefantasyfootballers.com. It took me like 2 years or a year and a half to get that website address right because the trips me up. The Fantasy Footballers, or you can find me at the FF Gator on Twitter, spelled how it sounds, and my links in my bio. Don't follow me because I can be annoying, but if you want to, then go for it.
Follow him.
Yeah, follow.
He's a very entertaining follower. Shout out to you, Rob.
Sometimes I just rifle off tweets when I'm watching games and then delete them the next day. So
That's
Love
okay.
it.
if
I
you're on
think we all
Twitter
do
during
that
the
at some
game,
point.
you'll get the show. Yeah.
I love
And
it.
real quick, I do want to give a quick shout out to I'm so gonna butcher this
Oh
last
yeah,
name.
you are.
But Kira Wyatorowski, she's going to be a new writer with us. She's going to do some DFS articles starting, I believe, next week. So give her a follow on Twitter. She is at FantasyFFKira, and Fantasy is PH because, yes, she is an Eagles fan like me. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.
Boo. Boo. Can't wait to rag on 2 Eagles fans on our staff.
Oh,
now.
this season, I have a feeling that's going to be happening a lot more often than usual. God, this season's going to be so bad for us.
Hell yeah. Joe Burrow's about to light up Philly for 50 points. Let's go. Go Tigers. In both sense of the word, Bengals and LSU. All right. Love that. Can we just give another quick shout out? I love Tommy. What a
Tommy's
guy.
awesome.
Tommy's great. And I know, Rob, I think you're drinking out of a Michigan glass, correct?
Yeah, I'm a Michigan fan. I'm one of those.
Tommy, the resident Michigan Wolverines fan.
There you go. Go blue.
Yes, Tommy's a big Wolverines fan, so I'll give a little shout out there to the
Smart
Michigan
man.
Wolverines. Big Ten football coming back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we get to lose to Ohio State again this year.
Yes. Dude,
Sorry.
that's what I keep saying, right?
Sorry.
Right? I'm like,
Way to be a Debbie Downer, Rob.
Yeah, my bad.
because I sat here, right? If you're a Michigan fan, would you fire John Harbaugh if it means you'd go 1-10 with the new coach, but that one win is against Ohio State?
No. I
Okay,
mean,
all right,
we get
fair.
that question all the time, but like, no. I mean, no. That's just silly. Like,
It is.
No.
Yeah. I like throwing that out there. Also,
Michigan State can do that about us, but we can't do that about Ohio State.
Also, a big shout out to that Isaac Bruce jersey in the background. Took him way too long to get into the Hall of Fame. One of the best receivers of all time, Isaac Bruce, with the former St. Louis Rams. R.I.P. to the St. Louis Rams, stepmom Lauren's former favorite NFL team. So another writer with the Fantasy Footballers. Wow, this is just it's all coming together here. Who would have thought? I didn't write any of this down. I'm just thinking of it off the top of my head. Why would I?
Yeah,
write anything
Lauren's
down?
big time now, so yeah.
Yeah, and she talks to us still, which makes us.
No.
I feel small.
I feel
when
honored.
talk.
Yeah.
Right. It's she's like ESPN level.
Yeah, I
of
was
fantasy
actually
football.
texting with her last night. So
Wow, God, I can't wait till Lauren makes it super big, and we can
Yeah,
say
she's the best. She's so funny.
love Lauren.
Like, yeah,
Absolutely
she's
love
hilarious.
Lauren.
Yeah.
If you missed any of the Women of Fantasy Football shows, you can go back, listen to those on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, or just watch the whole videos on YouTube. Had some great stuff on there. Going to have more content coming with Faith's show, The Speakeasy, dropping the first Tuesday of every month starting in October, which will be October 6th. I think they'll drop around 6 p.m. Eastern, something like that. I don't know the time.
we haven't worked out a time yet.
I haven't worked out a time. I'm working on the intro right now.
October 6th at 6 sounds good, though.
That does sound fantastic. All right. For Joshua Hudson at the One Hudsonian, Ryan Weiss at the Fantasy 5, Rob at the FF Gator, and myself at Joe_Zolo. This has been No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Be on the lookout next week for Kira's start in her debut for Club Fantasy, writing more DFS articles for us, more content coming your way. It's all for you guys, always free, all the time. That's what we love about this. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy. I love Jake and Rain over on YouTube. I'm sorry, Jake, that your team's
Jake's
gonna...
making me laugh right now.
I love Jake. I love it. I absolutely love it.
couldn't handle my heat.
Yeah. I love
Hey,
it.
Jake, if you haven't been kicked off Facebook yet, you can follow us there at Club Fantasy FFL. We'll be streaming our start sit on Saturday there as well.
Yes, sir. And next week, speaking of women's fantasy football, one of our former guests, second time on the show, the not Linda Godfrey, will be joining us for our Week 4 preview, the writer with Sons of Dynasty. And also, check out her show in just about 45 minutes now over on Periscope, YouTube as well. They have their show going with Troy King, who was also a guest of ours last week as well, the co-host of the Fantasy Football Confidential podcast. We will see you next week, everybody. Be sure to follow, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube page.